I grew up in Newark, New Jersey during the turbulent 1960s. Newark was then, as it is now, a tough town characterized by high crime, racial tension, and difficult economic conditions. When I was growing up, Newark really didn't think much about the environment or environmental concerns. My neighborhood was a little enclave called the Ironbound section, which was a tough working class neighborhood that had a few patches of green fields and parks, but it was largely surrounded by factories and foundries. We didn't realize it at the time, but those factories and foundries were later fined for dumping toxic chemicals into the nearby Passaic River by the precursor organization to the Environmental Protection Association. To the extent there were parks and green fields, many of them were plowed up and replaced by parking lots and strip malls. And the environment just wasn't something we thought much about. We also witnessed the installation of AstroTurf parks as a replacement to green fields, and it wasn't until many years later that we realized how damaging AstroTurf was for the environment. Today, many years later, frankly, Newark hasn't changed all that much. There's a broader national awareness of environmental issues, but the city is still pretty run down and pretty environmentally challenged. While pollution is in the rivers and blatant toxic dumping of toxic chemicals, etc., has been addressed, there just isn't a general awareness of eco-friendly policies and environments. Today, many years later, a lifetime away and on the other end of the socioeconomic spectrum, I live in a place called Greenwich, Connecticut. Greenwich is a rural, affluent suburb of New York City, and it is absolutely surrounded by beautiful parks and green fields and lakes and harborside facilities, which kind of gives rise to an interesting question. Is environmental awareness and care a product of socioeconomic standing? In Newark, we were just concerned about surviving and ultimately getting out, whereas in Greenwich, where people typically have greater resources and are better educated, the environment is something people actually think about and often are motivated to help preserve and protect. So is it purely socioeconomics and education that shapes environmental policy, or is it something else?